Well, Henry Ford's recruitment just took another turn. Mississippi State fans don't get too comfortable because while their chances are still strong, a new team has entered the race and could change everything. Who is it, and what does it mean for Ford's future? Let's dig in.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Making Locked On Mississippi State your first to listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Jaron Sport, national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That is Landon. We have a baseball packed show for you today. We're going to give an update on Henry Ford's recruitment because it took a turn here recently. We're also going to give an overall update on baseball recruiting, both with the high school ranks and also in the transfer portal, because there was some big news there. And then Jackson Owen has decided to pull his name out of the portal. We'll talk about how big of a deal that was for Mississippi State heading into next season. But first, let's talk about Henry Ford. And On3 put up a great story about this. Tennessee, we always knew, was kind of the threat.
Always there.
He's from Tennessee. He visited Tennessee maybe right off the bat when he entered the portal. Like, it was very early in the process. Obviously, Mississippi State is where his coach has left and gone to. Ford is also projected as a top 150 player in the draft, so the MLB draft is also a possibility. And those are, it kind of always felt those were the three. Like, right. It was either Tennessee, Mississippi State, or the MLB draft. Now Texas is involved. And we know Texas was number one for a lot of the year, maybe even most of the year this year. Yeah. Obviously, they get upset early on. I think they lost in the regional, got upset. Yeah, they did, and the number one team, Vanderbilt, did. Yeah, so well, I mean, we just know what Texas can do with recruiting, especially with NIL.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that when they get involved, you get a little worried just because of the amount of money that they can throw around. We've heard the rumors of the amount of money they've thrown around at various players over the years. And I mean, the amount of money they threw to get their baseball coach on that, but they're one you have to watch. They have another team with a lot of history with the baseball team, a lot of tradition there. So it's not just, they're going to throw money. He's going to some random school. Like you mentioned, number one team for a lot of last year, some history, a lot of money. They're one of the teams that, if these rankings hold up, preseason Henry Ford was considered kind of someone in that 10 to 20 range in the draft. Now, depending on whose ranking you look at, it's somewhere between like 30 to 70.
Yeah.
So there's someone that if he is like a late first, early second round pick, could actually outspend an MLB team given slot value to actually talk him into staying.
Yeah, and Tennessee has 5 players committed right now. Texas has, I believe, only one, but it's Luke Dotson, who we all obviously know here because he played at Mississippi State.
Good one.
So yeah, they're kind of stealing some Mississippi State players. So obviously now all hands are off. And I will say Tennessee was always a very viable threat. Yes. And if he chose Tennessee, it wouldn't have surprised me. So it's not like I thought, he's going to Mississippi State or he's going to the draft. We have talked about it a lot. It always felt like Tennessee was definitely in it. And I'm not sure how much Texas is in it, but anytime you see Texas's name floated around, your eyebrows raise a little bit because you gotta kind of worry about that. Now, it seems like we're going to be waiting a while because according to On3, it's unclear if he will pick a school before the draft. And the draft is mid-July, so basically a month from now is when the draft. So it could be a long wait. And then after we see him get drafted, I'm sure there will be some kind of at least discussion about the contract. Do I stay with that team? Do I ultimately come back to college? And then maybe a decision is made at that point. So it might not be solved anytime soon.
No, I honestly don't think it will. Because of how long he's taking to make this decision, I would be surprised if he picks someone before the MLB draft.
Right.
And those negotiations are weird because they're slot value, but you can go over or under. And this year, because of the competitive balance tax stuff, there's actually less first-round picks than in past years. So you might see some teams going way over slot value in the second round, and it might convince him to go, even if he isn't our first round pick. The MLB draft is weird. I've said that a million times.
Right.
I want them to change the rules from the years to when people can get drafted to how the pay for slots work. Just figure it out. I spend a year and I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. And if they were to get him, what he's going to bring is versatility. He played 56 games at first base in his freshman year, played 18 there as a sophomore, while also moving to right field for 34 games. He's also made appearances in center field. Like, he's going to bring you a lot of versatility, and he was great his first year, and obviously not as great this past year, but overall, he's a guy that, and we've talked about, if you got him in your lineup, that boosts this team now to a College World Series type of team, and talent-wise, at least. And so we've talked about that being a possibility. Well, things have to start falling into place, and this would be the biggest one probably of any of them.
Yeah, he'd be the biggest one. And there's a couple other names that are floating around for guys who may come here. I mean, we've mentioned it before. Eric Becker still kind of floating around. Where is he going to go?
Yeah, and there was an update on him too, because Virginia is making a push to keep him now that they have their coaching staff in place. On three, I actually talked about this one as well, and he once again, Texas is a big part of that recruitment as well. Florida has expressed some interest, but it doesn't appear the Gators are trending the same as Texas, Mississippi State, and Virginia. But Chris Pollard's staff has really been in contact with him and trying to keep him there and withdraw from the portal. So that's also a remains to be seen kind of thing, recruitment with him too. And same with Ford, Texas and their NIL money's back in it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, which we'll get into a little bit more, the catching situation at the end of this, but prior to the news of Jackson Owen pulling his name out of the portal, there were no catchers on this roster. And so Brian O'Connor and his staff have been connected to, how much conversation they've had with the various catchers. No one really knows, but they were connected to essentially every catcher in the portal, because they had to have someone. And I believe it was 3 people who were in the high school class coming in have played some catcher. So you don't want to go into a season where you're relying on a freshman who is not primarily a catcher to be your catcher. So there's still a lot of questions, even though we love what's happening out of this portal. There's still so many people floating out there that can change the trajectory of this team and take it to a whole new level.
Right. Well, and then there's also Nicky Becker, who, Eric's brother, who is still committed to Virginia at this point. So the Eric Becker recruitment is probably important for both, because now he might say, hey, I like Virginia. I like what Chris Pollard's doing. I don't care where Eric goes. I'm staying here. That's possible. But you would assume he's probably going to try to go where his brother goes. And so does he go with you to Mississippi State? Does he go with him to Texas? This opens up a lot of things in this recruitment. Now, some other portal news that's been good. Jack Bauer, we know, committed recently, and we talked about that, but ESPN released their top 40. He was not listed on it. Pico, for what it's worth, was not listed on it, although the tweet I wish I pulled it up. His tweet his mom sent out kind of made it seem like he probably isn't coming back. And I think everyone's kind of accepted that at this point, but you get Bauer back. Like I said, Ford was not mentioned in that top 40 as well. So for those that aren't super familiar with them, MLB draft, that means he would likely fall out of the first round. Obviously, need could change that, but both would possibly fall out of the first round or 3 with Pico. So that increases the chances that Bauer will be on campus.
Yeah, that increases that chance. And, we've got the 2 Parker brothers committed. We've got the Valencia committed. Let's get the Becker brothers in here too. Let's just have a whole team of brothers. No. There is a lot of, the Bauer thing. I've been reading his scouting report because you love the makeup. There's not a ton of 17-year-olds that are touching 103. So, but the scouting report is pretty much, he doesn't have much of a secondary pitch and he gets a little wild at times. So you kind of wonder, is that guy going to be a second round pick? And is that enough to make him go, no, I need to go to college and work on this, develop this secondary pitch, work on my command. But that mix to where you're working on a secondary pitch, throw that hard, a little wild, that's a closer.
I was about to say, but his freshman year, I'd use him as a closer. I mean, Aroldis Chapman has made a career off
that. That is the Aroldis Chapman mold. And as a Red Sox fan, I am a big fan of what Aroldis Chapman is doing this year.
Yeah, and we've gone on the list of pitchers that they have already, and we think Valencias will step in and be a starter. Maybe he's your ace. You also have Evan on staff still. Mm-hmm. Ryan McPherson's on staff. Ben Davis is on staff. Like, you have some guys that have experience that can take that starting role.
New guys that just
and let him just be the closer. Yeah, that first year, and then see if he can't develop. I mean, Pico was a reliever early in his career too, and obviously developed into a really good starter. So we'll see what ends up happening. But all right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the recruiting class and the transfer portal class. Mississippi State's done a lot of good work, especially Brian O'Connor ever since he came on board. We'll talk about where they rank and can they finish any higher. We'll talk about that next.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. And when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery. I know we have all been there at different times in our lives. And now I budget smarter and save more. With all-in-one convenience, instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And with easy collaboration, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so let's get into some high school recruiting rankings. Mississippi State, when Brian O'Connor took over, I believe was ranked number 9 in the country. Virginia was just behind that, a couple ways behind that. Now Mississippi State, with some of the commitments they have gotten, Bauer being one of those that we mentioned in the last segment, has moved up to number 5 in the country, and they only have 13 commits. And the 4 teams ahead of them, LSU, Tennessee, Texas, and Arkansas, all have more commits than them by quite a bit. The lowest is 18. Mississippi State has 13. If you look at the average player grade, Mississippi State right now has the 4th best class, and that's behind LSU, whose their class is incredible. 18 commits, 12 of those are in the top 100. Texas, Georgia, which Georgia has a number 22 overall rank, but they only have 8 commits, and so their average player rank is a lot higher. And then Mississippi State coming in at number 4. So Brian O'Connor hadn't been here long, but he is putting in a lot of work already.
Yeah, they have some, I mean, honestly, for lack of a term, they have some dogs in this class. I mean, for real. And one of them, the guy who is the top list, Jojo Parker, talked about him a lot. He's actually at the MLB Combine this week, much less televised than the NFL one, but I did get a chance to watch some of his batting practice. Boy, that boy can put on a show. Wow.
Yeah, it's possible he's not on the roster.
I mean, he's a projected top 12 pick. So really, unless he just wants to play with his twin brother, I don't see him actually making it to Starkville. I mean, all of his non-bunts in batting practice, he hit at least 90 miles an hour and topped out with an exit velocity of 105.2. He had a beautiful swing. I mean, I want him to make it here, but I don't see someone passing on him inside the top 10. But, you know, his brother's rankings are a little bit more all over the place. I've seen, I believe Keith Law has him more around the 50 mark, where a lot of other rankings have him more around like the 100, 110. So, and he is actually more of an in-game power hitter than Jojo is, Jacob. And all of his non-bunts were 95 miles an hour and topped out at 110.1 on exit velocity. Right. So, He also put on a show. I think there's a little bit better chance he ends up in Starkville, but I mean, when you're putting up those kind of numbers, it's you could see someone taking a chance on just raw power like that.
Yeah, you have a better chance of him coming than Jojo Parker. ESPN put out their top 40 mock. I mentioned it in the last segment. They have Jojo Parker going number 5 to the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah. He's ranked number 9 overall in the top 150. Incredible shortstop, obviously.
Great year for shortstops.
Yeah. And he's, let's see, would be the second ranked high school player in terms of going in the draft. Ethan Holiday, they have going one pick ahead of him at number 4 to the Colorado Rockies. So, yeah, I don't see Jojo Parker coming to campus again. Maybe he wants to play with his brother. We want him here because that's another one that you add to the lineup that could be incredible. But I mean, if he ends up going top 10, heck, if he just goes first round, it's a wrap. But if he goes top 10, it's probably definitely a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes first round, maybe if he falls late, he's a Mississippi kid, grew up fan or something, wants to play with his brother, you can sell all that and get close to what he would make with NIL maybe. But yeah, I don't see him making it. Hopefully his brother does, comes to campus. Hopefully Jack Bauer comes to campus. There's a lot of very good players in this high school class, but on the transfer portal side of things, and transfer portal rankings are all over the place. Everyone you look at has such a different way these teams are falling. Yeah. And I looked for it. I can't find it. They had top 5 classes. They had Mississippi State ranked 3rd, and the 2 teams ahead of them in the transfer portal had like 8 more commitments in the portal.
Yeah.
Mississippi State did. So we're killing it in the portal too. And that's without some of these names we have mentioned and without the big one that came in today or yesterday.
Right.
Blake Bevis, I'm assuming it's Bevis last name, power hitter.
That was a big one.
Outfielder.
And he plays all over the place. Outfielder, first base, and he's even pitched. So
those numbers are bad. I don't think I want him on the mound.
Right. You want him as your outfielder or your first baseman for sure.
Yeah, I think there's an opening at first base too. And we had mentioned Valencius has played there some. I'm not really sure why he's mentioned as playing first base. He's played 2 games there in his college career and none last year. But Bevis played 30 games at first base last year. I'd say he's probably the favorite to be your starting first baseman unless Henry Ford shows up. And he had – let me get off those pitching numbers. We don't want those. 18 home runs and a 301 batting average. That's another big bat to drop in the middle of this lineup. Maybe behind Reese. Whew.
Yeah, 40 home runs in his career, a .561 slugging percentage. Like this guy,
he breaks.
Yeah, he does. 368 on base percentage, 359 for his career. Like he's a really good hitter. So that's. Yeah, like you said, that doesn't count him on that transfer portal ranking. So Brian O'Connor and his staff are doing amazing work in the portal. They're also doing amazing work in the recruiting class. And I wanted to say this real quick because you talked about how good of a recruiting or high school class this is. And ESPN's top 15 players picked, 7 of them are high school kids. So almost half of the 15 are high school kids. So this is an incredible class and a lot of shortstops. Several shortstops going in there because Eli Willits they have going in the top 10. Billy Carlson they have going in the top 10. Obviously JoJo, so 3 in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's played high school baseball knows the best player is always the shortstop.
Yep,
that's the cool spot. If he's not the pitcher, he's the shortstop. So that kind of makes sense that there's a bunch of high school shortstops that are going to be drafted. But this has been a very good month of not even a month of recruiting for Brian O'Connor and his staff. And if they keep this momentum going over the next couple weeks, I mean, we've kind of jokingly thrown around the word dynasty, but we might not be joking if he keeps this up.
Yeah. Now go get the one because that's the one thing about the dynasty thing. It's so hard to win. First off,
yes,
the first one, it's hard to win, period. But the first one is so hard to win. Like, I always hear people talk about, especially right now, they talk about the Thunder being a dynasty possibly. They haven't even won the first one yet. Now we think they're going to win. They're up 3-2 and Halliburton might be out, but like they haven't won yet. Let's see if they win before we start talking dynasty. Because I remember them talking dynasty about the Thunder in 2012 when they lost to Miami. Of course, that offseason they traded James Harden and they never went back to the finals after that. So let's see what happens. But no, I mean, he's putting together a great recruiting class, a great transfer portal class. Now, it's easy to put that transfer portal class when you leave another school because a lot of those guys come with you. Let's see what he does in the transfer portal classes going forward, because that was the one thing that, while we didn't have a concern with, we understood why people might have a concern, because he wasn't having the backing at Virginia, so he wasn't utilizing the portal much. Let's see what he does now with the backing, which I think he'll do a really good job, and we'll see what they end up doing this year. But all right, Mississippi State got some big news with Jackson Owen deciding to stay home. Landon and I will break that down and what that means for next season. That's coming up next. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so like I just mentioned, big news for Mississippi State because, like Landon mentioned a little earlier, they had no catchers on the roster after Jackson Owen also announced that he was going to be entering the transfer portal and looking for another place to play his, I believe it's his final season coming up. So he's obviously from Starkville. It's his hometown. He went to Starkville High School. Then he went to Northeast Mississippi Community College. He played in only 6 games last year.
He had an injury that kept him out of the rest of the season.
Right.
He may have like 3 more years left with how these rules are at this point.
That is true.
Who honestly knows.
That is true. He didn't get any hits during that time. So he got on base on a walk, and he struck out 3 times. So, and he only had 5 at bats. So not the best stats. You did mention he got hurt. He had a really good community college season.
His community college numbers were very good, and have you thinking that's probably more what he is. I mean, 11 home runs, 54 RBIs as a freshman, and then a 360 batting average with 10 home runs as a sophomore. Those are good numbers, especially.
He didn't play it all in 24. He set the bench at Mississippi State. So,
yeah, I mean, if you're getting offense from a catcher, that's great, because that is such a physically demanding position, such a mentally demanding position that if you have someone who's batting 360 back there, holy crap.
Yeah, and the pitchers just need some continuity. I know he wasn't the starting catcher. I understand that, but you're getting thrown to in practices all the time by some of these guys. Now, obviously, you're bringing in some new guys like Valencias, like Bauer coming in.
Yeah.
But guys like Evan will have some continuity with him. Guys like Ben Davis will have some continuity with them. So that's always good. But like you said, I've always looked at my catcher, be really solid defensively. Don't let balls get past you. Be able to hit, get runners if they're trying to steal second, things like that. But mainly, I want that guy to be the leader of the team. That's what I want. That's what I look for.
Yeah, that's what you're for. You want a guy who is, and you want him to not be a detriment at the plate. You're looking for someone, and
don't have to hit a bunch of home runs. Just kind of get on base, come up clutch. You don't have to be
Kyle Raleigh out there popping 30 home runs or whatever. I mean, just go be Jason Varitek. Lead the staff, hit 10 home runs. Just go out there and just be solid.
Yeah, 100%. So, obviously, again, he didn't have a lot of stats, didn't play in 2024, got hurt last year a little bit, so played some. But when you don't have any catchers, you'll take any catchers you can get, especially one that already knows Mississippi State, grew up a diehard fan. He mentioned it was a dream of his to play there. So glad that he's back for sure. But all right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. We post a comment on every single YouTube video. We love your feedback on that. We also post a poll. We run out of time yesterday, so I didn't get to talk about the poll yesterday. So I'll talk about that one real quick. So the one from yesterday was, or I guess it would have been from 2 days ago. I'll read yesterday's as well. But it says, how important is it for Mississippi State to retain current players during coaching transitions? 57% said extremely important for team continuity. 43% said somewhat important, but new talent is key. And no one voted for not important, focus on new recruits. And then yesterday's was, what do you think is the most important factor in recruiting high school players? 41% says the team's current performance. 29% says the coaching staff's vision. And 29% said the school's facilities and resources. No one said being the last visit. So overall, we love your feedback on that. Those got, almost 50 votes on those. So yeah, we love your feedback on that. And sometimes I know some people post questions on those. I don't always see them, but when I try to get to them, because it's weird how they have it formatted in the notifications.
It's weird.
If you comment on the YouTube video, it's right there. It's easy to click. But if you comment on something else, it doesn't always go to the top. I don't know. It's weird, but
we lose them. We try.
We try to keep on. We try to keep on track. But yeah, until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.